Many times in the past we have visited with you about the concept of nighttime feeding in order to encourage daytime calving. And we've cited some research that's been done in Canada, here at Oklahoma State University, even some that's been done across the pond in the United Kingdom. This winter, we of course would like to continue that concept of figuring out a way to feed the cows as late in the day as possible and getting a higher percentage of them, therefore, to calve during daylight hours when we're likely to be there and provide assistance if necessary. But it's going to be a bigger challenge, I think, this winter than in some of the previous winters, and that's because of our shortage of hay supplies and our desire to be as efficient as possible with our hay feeding. One of the things we've also talked about in some of the previous Cow-Calf Corner shows is the concept of limited access to hay in order to achieve that higher efficiency of hay utilization. Limited access meaning that we would just turn the cows into an area where the hay is already in the big round bale feeders and allow them to be around the hay for 4 to 6 hours and then move them away from that hay into another pasture. How do we mix that then with the concept of nighttime feeding? Because if we're going to start feeding the hay late in the day, that means we're going to have to move those cattle out of that particular lot or pasture in the dark, and it's very difficult to do. Well, I think the best solution might be to go ahead and try our limited access to the hay starting about noon, and then as we can late in the day, go ahead when we still have just a little bit of daylight left, use that as a time when we want to move the cattle out of that lot into another pasture. At that point, if we're feeding some dry supplement, some range cubes for instance, that would be a good time to use that to help entice those cattle into that next pasture, and then they're getting that particular part of their diet at the time of day that we really want it to happen, say around supper time, so that we've got a higher percentage of their diet coming then later in the day. I think we can still combine these two management practices so that we can limit access to the hay for 4 to 6 hours, be as efficient as possible, and still get a higher percentage of the calves to come during daylight hours by using this combination of practices. We hope that works for you so that you save as many calves as possible this year, so we've got them to sell in order to make ends meet next year. We look forward to visiting with you again next week on Sunup's Cow-Calf Corner.